Welcome, the Lord's chosen. The most dangerous place in the world isn't a battlefield. It's a courtroom where the truth has been kidnapped. And tonight, we're about to step into that very battlefield. Did you know that in 70% of wrongful convictions overturned by DNA evidence, false testimony was involved? Imagine that, someone swearing on oath, looking a judge in the eye and selling a lie as if it were gospel truth. Now imagine the knife twisting deeper when the ones funding that lie weren't strangers, weren't enemies from the outside, but your very own bloodline. Yes, your family, the ones who clapped when you first walked, the ones who told you to be strong, the ones who once promised they'd ride for you. Turns out some of them weren't just riding, they were driving the getaway car after planting evidence of a crime you never committed. Let's be brutally clear. This isn't your typical courtroom drama. This is betrayal with receipts. The police already know someone lied about you. They know money moved hands. They know your own family cashed in on dishonor like it was a lottery ticket. What's worse, they didn't just bet against you, they bet against justice itself. And here's the kicker. When lies enter a courtroom, they don't stay still. Lies are noisy. They unravel. They expose the fingerprints of everyone who touched them. Your accusers thought they were clever, thought they'd lock you down with rehearsed words and hollow statements, but all they really did was sign their names on history's longest list of hypocrites. You see, the chosen one doesn't fall because of a lie. The chosen one rises because of it. And in this story, the lie didn't just backfire, it exploded. So buckle up, because what you're about to hear isn't just another family feud. It's the anatomy of betrayal, the unraveling of secrets, and the unmasking of people who thought loyalty was negotiable. Spoiler alert, it isn't. And if you've ever had a family member throw shade at you over Christmas dinner, trust me, this will make you feel a little better about that awkward argument over jollof rice. Number one, the courtroom didn't put you on trial, it put bloodlines on display. The courtroom didn't just put you on trial, it put your bloodline on display. That's the brutal truth people don't always see, because while the spotlight was directed at you, while they made it look like you were the one being tested, something else was happening underneath the surface. Every word that came out of their mouths wasn't simply an accusation against you, it was a reflection of them. Their lies weren't mirrors of your life, they were windows into their corruption. And once those windows cracked, everyone watching could see straight through the glass. Family has a strange power in the eyes of the public. Outsiders may lie on you, enemies may drag your name, but when family steps into the courtroom and says, "Yes, we know this person and here's what they did," people lean in differently. It's supposed to carry weight. It's supposed to feel authentic. That's why their betrayal hits like an earthquake, because it takes something sacred and twists it into a weapon. But here's what they forgot. When family sells you out, the transaction never stains the buyer, it stains the seller. You didn't walk into that courtroom with your credibility on trial. They walked in with their loyalty being tested. The police know the truth, and that changes everything. Because once the truth is out, the lie isn't just a weak story, it becomes evidence. Their testimony, bought and paid for, wasn't about you anymore. It was about exposing how low they would stoop. The world saw family ties disintegrate into selfish contracts, saw love exchanged for currency, saw loyalty auctioned off to the highest bidder, and no one forgets that. Lies may echo in the moment, but betrayal echoes for generations. So the court case was never just about you. It was a stage where your family's true character stood trial, and they failed it. The person they accused walked out with a story of survival. The ones who tried to destroy you walked out with stains that no verdict can ever wash away. That's the irony. They thought they were spotlighting your flaws, but all they did was shine a light on their own rot. The trial wasn't your downfall, it was their unmasking. Number two, they didn't just betray you. They bankrupted their own legacy. They didn't just betray you, they bankrupted their own legacy. That's the part people miss when betrayal happens inside a family. Everyone focuses on the person who got stabbed in the back. But the real collapse happens on the other side. Because when family members trade truth for lies, when they take money to frame someone they're supposed to protect, they don't just ruin a relationship, they ruin their entire name. Think about what family stands for at its core. It's supposed to be the foundation, the anchor, the group that holds you when the rest of the world won't. When that foundation cracks under greed, it doesn't just damage one person, It shakes the whole structure. They thought their betrayal would only take you down, but betrayal works differently. It stains the betrayer in ways they can't wash off. Once they signed their loyalty away for a paycheck, they stamped their legacy with the word fraud. That follows them forever. Money can buy testimony, but it can't buy respect. It can't buy trust back. And in the long run, it can't buy silence either. Lies are temporary currency. They always devalue with time. But integrity, that's generational wealth. They cashed out on you, and in the process, they went bankrupt in the only currency that really matters. Years from now, when your name is spoken, it will be tied to survival, strength, and truth. When theirs is spoken, it will be tied to betrayal, desperation, and greed. That's not something money can fix. The irony is, by trying to erase you, they erased themselves. They made their legacy about what they destroyed, not what they built. And history never forgets who pulled the knife, even if they once shared your last name. The truth is, the moment they sold you out, they weren't just disloyal to you, they were disloyal to themselves, their bloodline, and their future. Betrayal doesn't just kill trust in the moment, it poisons generations. So in the end, you walked out scarred but standing. They walked out rich in lies but bankrupt in dignity. And no matter how much they try to spin the story, everyone can see where the real loss landed. Number 3, the police aren't protectors in this moment. They're historians. The police aren't just protectors in this moment, they're historians. That's the twist your family didn't see coming. They thought it was a simple setup. Pay someone off, feed the court a lie, and walk away believing the system would take their side, but the police were watching closely. They weren't just recording facts, they were recording patterns, actions, motives. Every lie told in that courtroom became a permanent entry in a timeline of betrayal. And once something is written in history, it doesn't disappear. Your family assumed power was in controlling the narrative. They thought if they spoke with confidence, if they rehearsed their false testimony well enough, the police would nod along and the judge would buy the performance. But power never belonged to their lie. It belonged to the record. The police saw the cracks. They knew someone wasn't being honest. They knew money had moved. They understood that this wasn't just a case about you, it was a revelation about them. When the police become historians, every detail matters: who paid who hesitated when speaking, who looked desperate when pressed. They write it all down, not just for now, but for the future. And that means the betrayal your family tried to bury is preserved, not erased. Long after the courtroom lights fade, the file remains. Their dishonor isn't just remembered by you, it's remembered by the system itself. That's what they never prepared for, because history has a way of resurfacing. When the record shows that family loyalty was sold for a handful of cash, when it shows that the truth was sacrificed to frame the innocent, that doesn't stay locked away in a cabinet, it becomes part of the story that defines them. Years down the line, when your name rises higher and their names are whispered with suspicion, it will be because the historians, the police, did their job. The betrayal they engineered was supposed to erase you. Instead, it archived them. Every lie they told became a testimony about who they really were. And when history speaks, it doesn't flatter traitors, it exposes them. Number 4, the lie they paid for became their signature. The lie they paid for became their signature, stamped so deeply into the record that it now defines them more than anything else they've ever done. People think lies vanish once the moment passes, but the truth is, lies leave stains. And when those lies are delivered under oath with money behind them, they don't fade. They brand the liar permanently. That courtroom became the stage where your family thought they could rewrite who you are. But in the process, they ended up writing themselves into history as frauds. Every word they rehearsed, every detail they exaggerated, every false tear they shed became less about proving you guilty and more about proving themselves corrupt. The irony is sharp. They wanted the court to see you as the problem. They wanted your name tied to shame, suspicion, and crime. But the very act of manufacturing that lie flipped the script. Because when people lie, it's not just the content that speaks, it's the intent. And intent has fingerprints. The courts, the police, and even the people who sat in silence felt it. They didn't see a clean testimony. They saw a performance soaked in desperation. That desperation wasn't yours. It was theirs. Now their signature is everywhere. It's in the case files. It's in the whispers among those who know the truth. It's etched into the perception others will always have of them. They thought they could hide behind the mask of family or victimhood, but the mask slipped the moment they opened their mouths. They left behind evidence far stronger than any false accusation against you, evidence of their own betrayal. This is the curse of a bought lie. Once it's spoken, it can't be unsaid. Once it's recorded, it can't be erased. Long after the trial is over, long after you've risen above the accusations, those forged words will still be connected to them. People may forget the case details, but they'll never forget who was willing to sacrifice blood ties for a quick payout. That became their identity. So while they thought they were destroying your reputation, they were really signing off on their own downfall. The lie didn't define you, it defined them. And that definition will outlive their story, their excuses, and their denial. Number 5. This wasn't family conflict, it was identity theft. This wasn't family conflict, it was identity theft. Conflict happens in every family. Arguments over choices, lifestyle, money, respect. But what happened here went beyond disagreement. They weren't just upset with you. They weren't just trying to get the upper hand. They were actively working to erase who you are and replace it with a counterfeit version that fit their story. That's not conflict. That's theft at the highest level. Your very existence became a problem for them. The way you've lived, the choices you've made, the resilience you've shown, it all clashed with the narrative they wanted the world to believe. They couldn't control it, so they tried to rewrite it. That's why they paid for lies in court. They wanted the official record to reflect not who you truly are, but the distorted version they needed people to accept. They wanted to strip you of your identity and stamp their fabrication in its place. But identity doesn't bend that easily. You can throw dirt on someone's name, but you can't change the core of who they are. You can't rewrite the truth without the lie unraveling eventually. What they failed to realize is that in trying so hard to erase you, they exposed themselves. The desperation it takes to manufacture an identity for someone else only highlights the emptiness of your own. They revealed they had no authentic narrative of their own, so they tried to steal yours. And here's the deeper cut. Family is supposed to be the last place on earth where your identity is respected. They're the ones who should know you better than anyone, the ones who should stand as witnesses to your truth. When they become the very ones trying to rewrite your existence, it's not conflict, it's corruption. They weren't fighting with you. They were fighting against the fact that your truth invalidated their lies. So the courtroom wasn't just about false charges. It was about attempted identity erasure. They weren't satisfied with attacking your actions. They wanted to redefine your character, and in doing so, they confessed their own fraud. Because if who you are threatens their story, then their story was never real to begin with. They didn't just fail to destroy you, they failed to steal your identity. And now, their attempt stands as proof that your truth is too powerful to be rewritten. Number 6, the law became a mirror, not a weapon. The law became a mirror, not a weapon. They walked into that courtroom thinking the system could be twisted into a blade sharp enough to cut you down. They believed the power of false testimony, the weight of legal documents, and the authority of the court would be enough to crush you. But the law doesn't always work like that. The moment lies enter the room, the courtroom transforms. It stops being a stage for performance and turns into a mirror, exposing not just the accused, but the accusers. What happened that day wasn't the law striking you. It was the law shining on them. Every false statement they rehearsed didn't sound like evidence. It sounded like confession. Every attempt to smear you revealed their envy, their fear, their desperation. Instead of a weapon, the law became a reflection. And what reflected back was ugly. Greed, betrayal, and the kind of decay that can't be hidden once the light hits it. They thought the law was a tool they could manipulate. But laws are written with memory. Testimonies are recorded, statements are preserved, and lies, no matter how polished, start to decay the moment they're spoken. The record doesn't bend to protect the dishonest, it locks them in place. By trying to use the system against you, they accidentally exposed how far they were willing to sink. The beauty of a mirror is that it doesn't lie. And in that courtroom, no matter how passionately they argued, no matter how convincingly they tried to play their parts, what people saw wasn't your guilt. It was their corruption. Judges, officers, even strangers sitting in silence could see it. You weren't the one on display, they were. The courtroom showed who was really rotting from the inside and who was still standing firm in truth. So the law didn't destroy you, it revealed them. And that revelation is permanent because while they may try to rewrite the story later, the mirror of the law has already captured the image. And no matter how much they deny it, everyone who was there knows exactly what they saw. Their weapon backfired, the mirror told the truth, and the truth didn't belong to them, it belonged to you. Number 7, they tried to frame you, but framed themselves in the process. They tried to frame you, but framed themselves in the process. That's the irony of deceit. The harder someone works to bury the truth, the more evidence they leave behind about their own guilt. They thought they were being clever, thought they were orchestrating the perfect setup. All they needed was a story that sounded believable, a witness willing to be bought, and a stage where the law could play out their performance. But lies don't travel clean. Lies carry residue, and that residue always points back to the source. The money they spent left a trail. The words they rehearsed carried unnatural weight. Even their timing gave them away. When you look at it closely, the entire scheme wasn't a testimony against you. It was a testimony against themselves. The fingerprints were everywhere, not just on the money exchanged, but on the desperation in their voices, on the inconsistencies in their claims, on the nervous looks that cracked through their masks. The courtroom wasn't watching you fall into their frame. It was watching them reveal how low they were willing to go. The truth is, framing someone requires an obsession with control. But in their obsession, they lost control. They overreached. They left too many clues. They underestimated how sharp the system can be when it decides to listen. The police already knew someone lied. They already knew money was involved. Which means the very trap set for you was recorded in detail, step by step, with their names etched all over it. So instead of walking away victorious, they walked away exposed. Instead of rewriting your story, they stamped their own with betrayal and fraud. Everyone watching could see it. And even those who tried to play along with their narrative couldn't ignore how the evidence bounced back toward the accusers. They tried to box you in, but the box collapsed around them. Now their fingerprints live on the receipts of their own destruction. Those receipts aren't just paper trails, they're proof of character. Proof that when faced with truth versus greed, they chose greed. Proof that they didn't just betray you, they betrayed themselves. And in the end, the only frame that remained was the one that captured their downfall. Number 8. Truth didn't need a defense, their lie became its own witness. Truth didn't need a defense, their lie became its own witness. That's the thing about lies. The more dramatic, the more rehearsed, the more carefully constructed they appear, the louder they scream their own weakness. In that courtroom, your defense didn't even have to overwork itself because their falsehood was busy testifying against them. Every exaggerated word, every shaky claim, every forced detail shouted one thing louder than anything else. This is not the truth. The lie they paid for wasn't smooth, it was clumsy. Lies always are because they lack the natural flow of honesty. They tried to dress it up as convincing testimony, but the edges never lined up. Their body language betrayed them. Their timelines didn't add up. Their story carried that nervous energy that even silence could dissect. The irony is that while they thought they were attacking you, they were really building a case against themselves. Their own mouths became the prosecution, and that's why truth didn't need to fight back. Truth is steady. It doesn't panic under cross-examination. It doesn't tremble when questioned. It just sits there, unshaken, while the lie unravels in front of everyone. The courtroom could see it. The police could see it. The cracks were so obvious that the silence between their words carried more weight than their performance. Even if you hadn't spoken at all, their testimony would have collapsed under its own weight. That's the beauty and brutality of lies. They are self-destructive. They eat the liar alive from the inside out. In trying to create a weapon against you, your family handed over evidence of their own corruption. The very words meant to bury you exposed them. The courtroom became less about you proving your innocence and more about them proving their dishonor. When truth doesn't need a defense, it means the lie has already convicted itself. And that's exactly what happened. Their scheme didn't just fail, it testified against their character, their intentions, and their legacy. They put themselves on trial without even realizing it, and the verdict was written in the silence that followed, a silence that spoke louder than their performance ever could. Number 9, your family-proof blood isn't always lineage. Your family-proof blood isn't always lineage. DNA may connect you to people, but it doesn't make them kin in the truest sense. Lineage isn't about shared chromosomes. It's about shared values, loyalty, and the integrity that binds people together when storms hit. And in that courtroom, when they chose lies over truth and betrayal over loyalty, they proved that their blood in your veins doesn't mean they stand with you. It only means biology tied you together. Character did not. Family is supposed to be the ones who defend you when the world points fingers, the ones who remind others of your humanity when all they want to do is tear you down. But what your family did was the opposite. They became the ones pointing fingers, the ones tearing. They stood as witnesses against you, but in reality they stood as witnesses against themselves. Because in that moment they showed that what really matters in a bloodline isn't the blood, it's the bond. And they broke that bond publicly. Integrity is the true test of kinship. You can't fake it, you can't buy it, and you can't sell it without losing yourself. By paying for lies, by conspiring to see you destroyed, your family revealed that their DNA is where the connection ends. They don't share your fight, your values, your resilience. They don't share your honesty, your ability to endure hardship without bending your soul. What they share with you is nothing more than a surname and strands of code in their cells, and that is not enough to call them family. The deeper truth here is that betrayal by blood cuts harder, but it also exposes something essential: who your real lineage is. Lineage is built in loyalty, in the people who refuse to sell you out, who defend you even when it costs them. Sometimes those people aren't related to you at all, yet they carry more family in their heart than those who share your DNA ever could. Your family's betrayal wasn't just about what they did to you. It was about what they revealed about themselves. Empty shells connected by biology but disconnected from integrity. They proved that real family isn't who you're born with. It's who chooses you, who stands with you, who mirrors your integrity instead of mocking it. And by failing that test, they showed they were never truly your lineage at all. Number 10, they gambled on perjury and lost the house. They gambled on perjury and lost the house. That's exactly what happened the moment your family chose to buy lies and parade them in court. Perjury isn't just a false statement. It's the most dangerous bet anyone can make because it wagers against the one thing that never loses: the truth. They thought they were being strategic. They thought paying someone to twist facts and swear to them under oath was a clever move that would guarantee your downfall. But what they didn't realize is that the cost of perjury is never contained. It doesn't just risk the case, it risks their entire credibility, their reputation, their legacy, everything. By investing in lies, they staked their whole house on the hope that the system would stay blind. They bet on deception being strong enough to bury you. But lies always carry a hidden debt. Sooner or later, they demand payment. And now, the payment isn't coming out of your account, it's coming out of theirs. Every person who was part of that scheme is left holding the bill, and the interest rate is steep. You can rebuild a case, you can recover from accusations, but once someone is exposed as a liar under oath, once they are caught buying testimony and manufacturing stories, that stain never washes off. That's the kind of loss you don't bounce back from. It's not just legal judgment hanging over them, it's moral judgment. Communities remember who tried to bury their own blood for profit. Friends and outsiders remember who put money over loyalty. Even years later, their names will carry the echo of that gamble. Their house isn't just bricks and walls, it's their reputation, their sense of belonging, the respect that once stood intact. And all of it is under foreclosure because they gambled against truth and lost. The bitter part for them is that they didn't just lose the bet. They proved how little they had to begin with. They risked everything on destroying you, and now what's left of them is nothing but a record of betrayal. The court may close the case, but the judgment over their lives will keep going long after the verdict was read. They bet your downfall would be their victory. Instead, their perjury became the reason everything they built collapsed. They lost the case, they lost the house, and most importantly, they lost themselves. Number 11, what they feared most wasn't your freedom. It was your proof. What they feared most wasn't your freedom, it was your proof. Freedom was never the real threat to them because deep down, they knew you would rise again. What shook them to their core was the fact that your freedom came wrapped in undeniable evidence of the truth. That truth didn't just clear your name, it threatened to pull back the curtain on everything they've been hiding, everything they thought was buried for good. They weren't terrified of you walking free. They were terrified of what your freedom revealed. Your innocence didn't stand alone. It carried proof. Proof that the accusations against you were manufactured. Proof that money exchanged hands. Proof that the story told in court wasn't just flimsy but fraudulent. And when proof emerges, it doesn't stop with the accused. Proof has a way of digging deeper. It raises new questions. If they lied about this, what else have they lied about? If they paid to bury their own blood, what other skeletons are sitting in the dark? That's the kind of spotlight your family never wanted shining in their direction. Their goal wasn't just to put you behind bars, it was to bury you under a mountain of lies that would keep the rest of their secrets safe. Because as long as you looked guilty, no one would look at them. As long as the story stayed fixed on your supposed crimes, no one would dig into theirs. You weren't just a target, you were their scapegoat. By attacking you, they hoped to redirect attention away from their own shadows. But when the truth about you came out, it worked like a searchlight. It illuminated every corner they wanted to keep dark. Your vindication became evidence of their corruption. Your survival became a testimony that pointed to their guilt. What they feared most wasn't justice in your favor, it was exposure in theirs. That's why their hatred ran so deep. It wasn't just about control or envy, it was about survival. Because the moment your proof surfaced, it dragged their skeletons into daylight. And now those skeletons aren't hidden anymore. They're standing in plain sight, linked to their names, tied to their choices. They never feared you walking free. They feared the world finally seeing them without their masks. And now, thanks to your proof, that's exactly what happened. Number 12. They turned the court into a stage, not realizing the audience was history. They turned the court into a stage, not realizing the audience was history. Every word they spoke, every lie they rehearsed, every false tear they shed wasn't just aimed at convincing a judge. It was carved into a permanent record. They thought it was theater, a performance designed to destroy you in the eyes of the law and everyone watching. But the problem with turning truth into performance is that the stage is always bigger than the actors imagine. They thought the courtroom was the audience. In reality, history itself was taking notes. What was meant to be your downfall has become their recorded confession. Courtrooms don't forget. Transcripts exist. Files are stored. Evidence is preserved. And every distorted statement they gave will live on as proof of what they tried to do. Years from now, when people look back at this case, they won't see you as the villain. They'll see the desperate ones who paid for lies, who betrayed blood, who used the legal system as their personal weapon and ended up exposing their own rot. Their performance was supposed to paint you guilty, but it only revealed how guilty they were of betrayal. That's the flaw in thinking lies can be staged. A performance might win applause in the moment, but history doesn't measure applause. It measures truth. And the truth is that their attempt to break you only became evidence against them. They thought the spotlight was burning you, but it was really highlighting them. Every person who sat in that room became a witness, not just to their testimony, but to their character, or the lack of it. Now their treachery has been immortalized. It can't be undone. Can't be scrubbed from the record, can't be denied no matter how much they try to spin the story later. They made themselves characters in a play they didn't write the ending for. They thought the final act would see you fall, but the curtain rose on their betrayal instead. And the audience wasn't just the people in the room, it was history itself. History always remembers the betrayer, the ones who sold blood for currency, the ones who turned justice into theater. They wanted their lies to last forever. In a way they will, but not as victory. They'll last as a confession carved into the story of their lives. Number 13. Their lie didn't just fail, it graduated you. Their lie didn't just fail, it graduated you. When your own family conspires against you, pays for false testimony, and tries to bury your name in court, it's not just an attack. It's a twisted acknowledgement of your significance. Ordinary people don't inspire that level of betrayal. Ordinary lives don't attract conspiracies that involve both family and the law. The fact that they moved with such desperation to destroy you is proof you've stepped into territory that threatens them, a level they could never reach. Being falsely accused by your own blood is not just painful, it's revealing. It shows that your very existence challenges their comfort. Your resilience, your growth, your identity became so unbearable to them that the only option they saw was to erase you. That isn't failure on your part. That's graduation. That's proof you've outgrown the space they wanted to keep you in. They couldn't match your integrity, so they attacked it. They couldn't dim your light, so they tried to cover it with lies. And when people move like that, it's never because you're weak. It's because you're strong. The courtroom they built against you wasn't your cage. It was your stage of transformation. They thought the false accusations would shrink you, but instead, it expanded you. Because surviving betrayal at that level changes something inside you. It removes illusions. It burns away naivety. It graduates you into a new level of clarity, strength, and purpose. While they walked out smaller, exposed for what they really are, you walked out with proof that you can't be destroyed by lies, not even from the people who should have protected you. Graduation isn't about ceremony, it's about crossing thresholds, and this was one of them. You've entered a place where their tactics can no longer reach you. They can't bind you with shame anymore. They can't rewrite your story. Their lie tried to define you, but all it did was define them as people incapable of rising, so desperate they tried to pull you down instead. So the lie failed, but its failure crowned you. It stamped your resilience, your truth, and your destiny. You didn't just survive the attack, you leveled up because of it. And that's something they'll never touch, because graduation is for those who endure, not for those who betray. Number 14. The verdict was never about innocence, it was about revelation. The verdict was never about innocence, it was about revelation. From the beginning, the case wasn't really yours to carry, no matter how much your family tried to make it look that way. They thought putting your name in front of a judge, stacking lies against you, and paying for testimonies would tip the scales. But innocence wasn't the question. What was on trial was the truth, and that truth revealed them. The police knew from the start that something was off. Lies always leave trails, and those trails pointed back to the people who swore they were your blood. The court saw it too, the hesitation, the inconsistencies, the cracks in the story that no amount of rehearsal could patch up, and in the end, the world came to understand what was really happening. You weren't the one being weighed, they were. Their loyalty, their integrity, their very humanity was put under judgment. And they failed every test. That's the hidden reality of betrayal in a courtroom. When family tries to destroy one of their own, the case shifts. It becomes less about whether you committed the crime and more about what drove them to such extremes. The spotlight they meant to burn you with ended up shining on them. Every false statement became a confession. Every payment made to keep the lie alive became evidence of how far they were willing to go. They wanted the verdict to strip you of dignity, but all it did was strip them of their masks. So the outcome was never just about your name being cleared. It was about exposing theirs. The chosen one was never the accused. The chosen one was the catalyst. Your presence, your truth, your refusal to break under their lies turned the tables. By the time the verdict was read, it wasn't about whether you were innocent. It was about the revelation that they were guilty of betrayal, of envy, of trying to rewrite destiny. Now the world sees it plainly. The trial was never yours. It was theirs all along. And the judgment that fell didn't just come from the gavel. It came from history, from truth, from the undeniable fact that when they tried to bury you, they ended up burying themselves. In the end, this was never just a courtroom battle. It was a revelation, a stripping away of masks, a test that proved where the true rot lived. They thought lies could cage you, but those lies became evidence against them. They thought family blood was enough to define you, but you showed the world that integrity, not DNA, is what builds true lineage. They gambled on perjury, and all they earned was bankruptcy of character. They tried to frame you and framed themselves instead. They turned the court into a stage, and history became their audience, recording every move, every word, every act of betrayal for eternity. What rose out of the ashes wasn't their version of you, but the truth, a chosen one who can't be erased, who can't be buried, who can't be rewritten. You didn't just survive the attack, you graduated through it. The very proof they feared most is the same proof that sets you apart forever. The verdict wasn't about whether you were innocent, it was about the world finally seeing who was guilty. So let this be the legacy of that trial, not the scars of betrayal, but the strength of revelation. Because the chosen one was never on trial, the family was, and now their downfall is etched in history while your rise is undeniable. That's the ending they didn't prepare for. That's the truth they couldn't silence. That's the victory no lie could ever steal. If this spoke to you, if it shook something inside you, then don't just walk away quietly. Hit that subscribe button, because this is only the beginning of deeper truths that need to be heard. Like this video to push the message further. Drop a comment below. Let your voice be part of this story, because silence is exactly what betrayal counts on. And share this with someone who needs the reminder that lies never win, truth never dies, and chosen ones always rise. This isn't just content, this is clarity, and the world deserves to hear it. Stay blessed always.